Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Terence, Tats, and tonight we're gonna have just a fun, wonderful time. And it's like I'm continuing my work on reviewing the movies of Tim Burton, and we're gonna have like this wonderful, fantastical, whimsical family movie. Yeah, right. We're talking about Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This movie, like, it is interesting. This is definitely an interesting movie. I actually do recommend it, but the thing is, like, I know it's based on a young adult kind of fantasy novel and stuff like that. But honestly, like, you watch this movie, it definitely, like, it gives you like the appearance of like a wonderful fantasy family foo-foo kind of movie and everything else. And this movie goes into straight flat out horror territory. Like, this movie definitely has a lot of horror elements to it. And normally I would say this would be like a good gateway movie, like if you wanted to try to get your kids into horror movies and stuff like that, or kind of start working them into horror movies and stuff like that. I think in a situation like this is actually probably one of those times where you're like, you might want to actually watch this movie first before you let your kids see it, because it's like I think this movie would be a little bit too tough for kids, but what do I know? Anyway, so well, especially nowadays, everybody's so sensitive and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I probably would say, probably be best thing for you to do is watch this movie before you even let your kids see it. It's like if your kids are really that sensitive, I don't know if they can handle this, but honestly, it actually is a really good movie, and um, you know, this movie really was a breath of fresh air, especially after for so long Tim Burton had for a long time he had just been doing remakes, and he was doing like okay Planet of the Apes, and then Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd, Charlie and Chocolate Factory, all this kind of, and everybody was getting kind of annoyed because they're like, is that all Tim Burton is going to do anymore? Is just do remakes, and I mean, yeah, I mean like Corpse Bride, that was actually a breath of fresh air, but then it seemed like he just went back into the remakes and stuff. He even remade um, Frankenweenie, which was based on, I mean, granted, it was his own original story, but it was based on his short film and everything. So, you know, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, oh my God, like, can he do anything? Just like try to do something slightly original. And that's when this came in. And he took this movie on. And, it's like, it's a really, really good story. The story is about this boy named Jake. Excuse me. And the kid's kind of an outcast. He's a little bit awkward, doesn't really fit in. Kind of a typical Burton main character in the Tim Burton film. Somebody who's a little bit odd, socially awkward, doesn't really fit in. A little bit of an outsider and stuff. And his grandfather, played by Terence Stamp, who he's really really good in the movie, but at the same time, it's just so weird because I'm so used to seeing Terence Stamp play villains all the time, so it's kind of weird to actually see him play a good character. He's good in the movie, he's good at it and everything else, and but it's just like when I think of Terence Stamp, I think of stuff like General Zod from Superman 2, that kind of thing. But anyway, so Jake is talking to his, he goes, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So anyway, his grandfather for all these years had been telling these stories about, in 1943 he had, he had gone to this school for peculiar children, and he knew all these kids, and he was talking about like they were different and everything, and he talked about this woman who is the head mistress named Miss Peregrine, and so kind of telling Jake all these stories and everything, and Jake, growing up, Jake is thinking his grandfather is wonderful, and he loves all these stories and everything else. But then one night, Jake goes home. He's going home from work, and he finds his grandfather out in the backyard, and like the house is a wreck, the back fence is completely torn down, stuff like this, and he's seeing monsters lurking in the woods and stuff, and he finds his grandfather. His grandfather's about ready to die, and his eyeballs have been gouged out. See, that's what I say. Yeah, sweet, fun family entertainment. But anyway, so Jake, he sees the monster, but you know, he's not able to catch or kill the monster or anything. So but then his grandfather dies, and he's really upset by the whole thing. He loved his grandfather, and his parents, think that he should start seeing a therapist. And the therapist played by Allison and Janney, and so and the therapist is telling him, you might want to go and, go find this place that your grandfather talked about over in the UK, and, maybe like you find this place and this old, where this, school for these children were, and maybe you can get some sort of closure from it and everything else. And so Jake decides he's going to go, but his father goes with him, and they go there, and Jake is able to find this, what's the remains of this school for the children, and he meets this, he goes looking around, and he meets this girl Emma, who's the girl up here who's floating, and they bring him into what they call a loop, and in this loop there's like it's kind of like another world where basically everybody and then they meet Miss Peregrine, played by Eva Green, and and yes, let's go ahead, we'll get this out of the way. Yes, Eva Green is hot as hell, we all know that, but Eva Green, yeah, she's mouth watering. Okay, we got that out of the way. But and she is Miss Peregrine. And at first, they think that actually that Jake is Abe, but then come to find out, no, that they know that Abe is dead. Abe is his grandfather, played by Terence Stamp. And so, Jake is like asking all these questions and everything else, and he's coming to realize that basically that all this stuff that his grandfather had told him about this school for peculiar children and everything, it's real. And he meets all these, there's like Olive, this one character Olive, she's she's got like the ability, like she has like fire hands, she touches anything, she can make it burn. And then you got Emma here, who her gift is like she can control air, she can float, and she can move the winds and things like this. Then you got what's his name, Willard, I think, an invisible boy. You got this little girl, I forget her name, but she's got superhuman strength, and then all these different children, they all have these different qualities about them that like one little girl, she's got like a big mouth in the back of her head, so she takes like a turkey drumstick, and it's like the mouth is in the back of her neck, and that's how she eats her food. And then you have a boy named Enoch who has this ability to make like inanimate objects like puppets and things like that come to life, and he can make them do whatever he wants, and these children all have different powers and things like that. And kind of, yeah, in a way it is, some people have kind of referred to this saying like this is Tim Burton's X-Men. It's like, yeah, that's not too far off, but anyway, so they're kind of like trying to get to know each other and all this other kind of stuff. And then Miss Peregrine, we come to find out that living in this loop, they live in a 24-hour loop, and then the thing is like they have to Miss Peregrine, like her biggest ability is that she can control time. She can make time go forward, go backwards. She can stop time, reverse it, everything, all this kind of stuff. And that the thing is like this loop that they live in is a 24-hour loop, and at the end of this 24 hours, they have to reverse the loop. Miss Peregrine, she has to reverse the loop, otherwise, because the time that they're in is in 1943, and Germany is about to drop a bomb on the school, so they have to reverse. At the end of every day, they have to reverse the time so that the bomb does not drop and hit the school. So anyway, yeah, I gotta kind of that's the only bad part about this movie. There is like this movie has a very intricate, dense plot to it. There's a lot going on in this film. But anyway, so we come to find out that the day that she picked is not perfect because there are now these creatures called hollows. And these hollows, they're monsters that they're trying to search for immortality. And the main hollow is named Baron. and Baron is played by Samuel L. Jackson. And Samuel L. Jackson, like you watch this movie, you can tell Samuel L. Jackson is having a lot of fun in this movie. He's playing the bad guy, but you can tell he's enjoying every moment of it. He's really into it and having a good time with it. I think the only bad part, though, I think for him was probably like, God, just really having to restrain himself, because he probably wanted to say motherfucker every 2 seconds, but he can't do it because it's supposed to be a kids film. But then there's this character, I forget her name, but it's played by Dame Judi Dench, and she comes to a particularly bad end. And it's like the thing is like the peculiar children, Baron does these experiments. I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of incoherent with this. Like I said, this movie has a pretty intricate, dense plot to it. But Baron, he's looking for immortality. And he figures that the way that he can get immortality is to take these peculiar children and rip their eyeballs out of their heads and eat them. I'm not joking. That's what I'm saying. That like this definitely goes into horror film territory. And so literally they're like, like they're literally like picking up little kids, little boys, little girls, and like ripping their eyeballs out of their heads and eating them and stuff like this. And so, um, at one point Baron, he catches Miss Peregrine, and he's doing this experiment and he needs Miss Peregrine to complete this experiment so he could try to attain immortality. But then he sends the rest of the hollows after the children, and so there's a lot of monsters, there's a lot of fighting, there's definitely a lot of horror movie sequences in this. There's definitely like a Ray Harryhausen kind of a sequence where you have these hollows fighting, where Enoch decides they go to this like haunted house, in a haunted house fun park, and Enoch makes the skeletons come to life. So there's it feels very much like a Jason and the Argonauts kind of a scene here, and they have to try to get Miss Peregrine. They have to try to save Miss Peregrine before it's too late. Um, you know, before Baron can use her to fulfill his experiment and gain immortality, or at least so he thinks. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. I know I'm doing a really, really sad job of trying to explain everything in this movie, but it's really, really hard because I'm trying not to take all day explaining this movie, but there's just so much going on. And like I said, it's a very, very thick plot, a lot of layers to this story, but the movie is, like only 2 hours and 7 minutes, but still, it's like there is so much going on in this movie. But I actually definitely recommend it. And even though it is, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but even though this is billed as like a family film, it's billed as like a, kind of like a fantasy kind of mystical kind of movie and everything else. Like this movie definitely has very much a very bleak, very kind of melancholy, gothic feel to it. It's like the movie always kind of has this feel of like, even though like in some of the funnest moments and the most lighthearted moments in the movie, there's always this kind of impending dread or danger or doom or something like that. There's always something going on. And the movie definitely feels very much like a horror film. And the acting is really good. Like Eva Green, she does a great job. All the actors really do a good job playing their parts. And like I said, Sam Jackson is the villain. He's got these white eyes and he's got these sharp, teeth and everything else. It's like he's actually very effective. He's very creepy. But honestly, yeah. I mean, if you're a Tim Burton fan or like I said, like this is one. Like if you definitely like you have kids, you want to try to get your kids started into horror films and stuff like that. This will definitely be a movie to get them going. And yeah, maybe not so much in the beginning, but as the movie progresses and everything, especially when you're starting to get into, the end of the second act, going into the third act, yeah, this definitely starts to feel much more like a Tim Burton film. But I really do recommend it. I think it is a really good movie. And like I said, it was really a breath of fresh air because, for such a long time, everybody was just like, God, all Tim Burton does is remakes and everything. And, to see him do something that was a little bit more original. And, so yeah. So I think I've said about it. That's the thing. Yeah, I'm kind of screwing everything up here and I'm just kind of, repeating myself at this point, but Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. If you're a Tim Burton fan, you're definitely going to like this. And even if you're not a Tim Burton fan, but you want to watch like a movie that really is more like a horror film for kids, then yeah, this will definitely do. So that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I also hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, would you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, would you please subscribe to the BodyBags channel? We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer, and I'm in with a good crowd. We have great guys. Everybody's doing really good stuff, and I'm really lucky to be a part of this group. I really am. And so that's it. So take care, everybody, and have a good night. I'll see you later.